hello everybody, and welcome to the at Surrey Dietetics Let's Into Live Chat series Dietitians Week specials. And my name is Long Lee, and I am a lecturer in dietetics at the University of Surrey. And I'm very glad today I've got Sophie Medlin as the guest in our first special live chat during Dietitians Week. And welcome, Sophie. How's your day?
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me. I've had a lovely day, although I was supposed to go and lecture at the University of Coventry this morning and all the trains out of London were cancelled, so I had to do that online, which is a shame, but
yeah. And I saw on Instagram story you had a really early start as well, because you did an interview with Live 5.
That's
5
right.
Live. Yeah, and what was it about?
That was about ultra processed food. So I think there's a panorama documentary coming out maybe this evening about two twins who did some research with King's College, and one ate ultra processed food and one ate the similar foods but not ultra processed, and they had quite different outcomes after a month or so. So yeah, it was about ultra processed foods in general.
And was it just started at 6 and you had to get up really early, or did you need to
Yeah, it was off camera, so I just rolled out of bed and did it before I got in the shower, which was perfect. Otherwise I would have had to have a really, really early start.
Yeah. And everybody, I just realised I've been very rude, because I just assumed everybody knows Sophie, and I'm sure that most people know Sophie, but I think because we've got many students who are new to dietetics, I'm just going to give you a very quick introduction to Sophie. So Sophie Medlin is a well-respected consultant dietitian specialising in gastrointestinal and colorectal health. She regularly features in print, broadcast and social media, and she recently made a notable appearance in the Channel 4 programme Know Your and Inside Our Guts, which has received high praise. She also utilises her clinical and research skills as a consultant in product development, focusing on the manufacture of vitamins and probiotics within the commercial sector. Sophie also is the founder of City Dietitians and runs her private clinics. And I feel like, Sophie, I can use the next 30 minutes to list all your achievements. And because you have achieved so much, Sophie, and that's why I'm so glad, because I know you're very busy, and I'm so glad you can come to our live chat today.
Inviting me, and I'm so passionate about supporting the next generation of dietitians and all the amazing we can do as a profession these days. So no, it's an absolute pleasure to be here.
And happy Dietitians Week to you as well. And obviously this year's theme is Faces of Dietetics, and I'm just wondering, what does it mean to you, Faces of Dietetics?
I think what we really need to recognise as dietitians, as a profession as a whole, is that what your dietitian looks like might not look like you, but hopefully there'll be lots more dietitians that do look like you in the future, because it's been a very white, middle class dominated space for a very long time. So I feel really hopeful that the face of dietetics is changing, and that we are becoming a much more inclusive profession in the way that we practice, as well as in the way that we actually are as individuals.
And absolutely, and I think from dietitians from different cultures, and dietitians specialises in different speciality, and also I think dietitians working in different industries as well. So not just the NHS, but basically every field needs a dietitian. And obviously, Sophie, you have achieved so far in your professional journey. But I'm just wondering if you could tell us a bit more about your professional journey.
Yeah, of course. So like most dietitians do, and certainly all dietitians did when I qualified, I started working in the NHS, and I did about 7 years in the NHS, specialising in colorectal diseases and disorders and gastrointestinal surgery and that side of things. I did some nutrition support and all sorts of other bits and pieces on the way to that job. I then worked as a lecturer and researcher, so I did 5 years, 2 years at Plymouth University and 3 years at King's College in London. And it was when I was at King's that I realised that actually my skill set probably doesn't lie in academia. I was sort of on this path between doing my PhD and then thinking about doing a bit more of the sort of work that I do now, so a bit more media work and some clinical private practice, that kind of stuff. And fortunately, I was seeing a counsellor at the time, a therapist, who said, who are you doing it for? What do you want to do? And I said, actually, do you know what, all of these things that I am naturally really good at, working with patients, building businesses, being entrepreneurial, doing media work, science communications, that stuff comes really easily to me. This kind of academic stuff is really really, really hard for me. So I made the decision at that time to pursue the business and to continue to push that. And that had been started in 2018 by myself and my then business partner, Dr. Nicola Guest, who was in the office next door to me at King's. And the pandemic came, and we, prior to the pandemic, we were very much a face-to-face only business. And then obviously we pivoted during the pandemic to be online. And at that point, that's what really allowed the business to build really rapidly. And now, people might know, I've got a team of about 10 or 12 amazing dietitians, all with their own specialities, working all over the country in virtual clinics. And we have a lovely face-to-face clinic in London as well.
Oh, wow, that sounds, and I think especially you said like you started when you were still working at King's, and because I work at the university, I know how busy it can be and how demanding the job can be. So, and then starting a business at the same time, that's really, really inspiring. And I guess my question would be like, how did you get the ball rolling at that time? So, obviously you made the decision, but how did you start?
Yeah, great question. So when I was working at Plymouth University, I was working alongside, we worked in a big allied health professions building, and we worked alongside physios and OTs and all these other healthcare professionals, which was great. And all my physio friends worked in private practice as well. So they all did a bit of private practice on the side as well as their lecturing, just for private physio clinics. And of course, there's a physio clinic on every corner, as I believe there should be a dietetics clinic on every corner. And they said to me, well, come and work for us. They'll rent out the clinic room. They've got lots of patients that would like to see you. So I set up my BDA freelance staff, and I did a couple of other bits and pieces in terms of positioning myself there, registered with Bupa and AXA and the big insurance companies. And then really the patients just started coming, and there wasn't really anybody else in Plymouth at that time where I was working doing any private practice. So I was very lucky to be able to occupy that space quite easily. And then I did a bit of work at the local private hospital and stuff like that. And then when I moved to London for the King's job, I actually said to myself, I'm not going to do any private practice. I really want to focus on my academic work and build that up, and see what opportunities are there for me. And then before I know it, I had sort of 10, 20 people saying, can we see you? We want to book in, just from the BDA freelance page. Again, it was not very competitive at that time. And I thought, well, I spoke to Kevin Whelan, who was my boss at the time, and I said, look, I've got these patients waiting to see me. Worried that if they see me, they'll see somebody else that doesn't know. They've got stomas, they've got complex colorectal things. What do you think? And he was like, definitely see them. Don't miss out on seeing those patients. So I found myself another room in a physio practice and just started seeing them. And then they kept flowing, kept coming, and that was lovely. So I just sort of gradually built that up. And then at that time, the business was all running under Sophie Dietitian, which is obviously my social media handles. And then when Nicola joined and we thought actually about expanding and what we could do and what the potential was, we pivoted that to City Dietitians, and that's really where that ball got rolling.
Oh, wow. So it sounds like quite a journey, but you actually started in Plymouth already. And I guess, and I think when the opportunities came, you actually obviously grasped the opportunity, and then you started from there. So I think that's probably something people needs to know of, even we're very busy, but when opportunities come, to take it. Would you agree with that?
Having a bit of a future focus. So what are you doing now, and what do you want to do, and what's important to you? And I think there's something to say for that. But also I think you're quite right along. It's about just saying, well, I'm going to open this door and just see what's around the corner. I'm going to do it with an open heart and an open mind there for me. And if there's nothing there for me, fine. But if there's something exciting and positive there for me, I'm going to pursue it to the next door and the next door. And I think the real thing that I always want to put across to students in particular is this thing about patience. Like, everything takes a long time. So I think I've been a dietitian for about 15 years now, and I've been as an academic for 5 years, NHS for 7 years, and then also I've been in private practice for probably more than 10 years now. And you can't build a big clinic overnight. It does take a lot of time, and you need to have credibility to work in private practice, because otherwise, why would people book a lot of money to see you? So it takes time, and that's something that people don't want to hear, particularly in this day and age.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I think you also had worked in the NHS for quite a few years to really develop your clinical knowledge and your skills during that time. So I always say NHS is actually a great start for dietitians, and then from there to go into private practice probably is a really good pathway, I guess.
and use the NHS to do that, and use the NHS to become really good at it. And I still have previous NHS colleagues who refer patients to me. I still do collaborative working with them because, we became such an important part of that multidisciplinary team, and we are such an important part of that multidisciplinary team. And your students will know that you learn, hardly anything about colorectal whatsoever at university. All of my colorectal knowledge comes from specialist nurses and from working with consultants and doctors and going to MDT meetings and all of these important things. So yeah, it's really important to recognise that, particularly in the gut health space, you've got to really specialise and spend a lot of time in the NHS before you can really be an expert in what you want to be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And you just mentioned previously worked on Sophie Dietitian, which is a social media handle. And then last year you won the Social Media Personality of the Year CN Award, which everybody have been nominated this year as well. So if you can vote for me, that would be great. Sorry, Sophie, I had to plug that in. But I was just wondering, in terms of social media, how did you get started on social media? And what did you need to do to bag all those achievements on social media?
Yeah, good question. So I suppose the thing, again, to remember is I started on social media when Instagram first started, so 10 years ago, 11 years ago probably now. And I started a bit on Facebook as well. I just started seeing all of these fads on Facebook popping up and again on Instagram, and just thinking, God, there needs to be someone saying this isn't right. At that time, it was like, cabbage is great for curing cancer and all this kind of stuff. It's sort of evolved over time. I just thought, there really needs to be another voice in this space that's supporting evidence-based nutrition. And nothing grew quickly. It was all very slow, and people would look at my social media now and still think it's very small. And it takes a lot of time to do that stuff and a lot of energy, and it's not necessarily the easiest thing to give time to. But I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and they were talking about how you've got to put in hours every single day into things with no expectation of outcome to really achieve stuff. And I think that really speaks to the world of social media, where you've just got to chip away at it and put some energy into it, a little bit of energy every day, every week, with a big expectation to start with, and before you know it will start paying off.
Yeah, and I guess I think from what you said is a few things. One is the ability to see that opportunity, because obviously you start to see those fat diets, and I think you thought you could use your knowledge to tackle that issues, and also persistence as well, and you have to do this for a long time, and as you said before, be patient as well. So I think absolutely everybody, you can't just be successful overnight, and it takes time. So definitely bear that in mind. And then coming to your TV series, Sophie, and obviously I have watched the Channel 4 program, which I really absolutely loved it. And I think what I love the most is it's not very clinical in a way that the setting's very, how should I describe it? The colors they use, it's very sort of pink and green, and it's not very clinical. It's very, I can't say like fashionable, if you know what I mean. Like, it's very comfortable. And so I think that's probably, I don't know if they have specifically designed it in that way to make people feel like close and more comfortable.
You're absolutely right in noticing that. And Zoe, who was the set designer, would love to hear that's across to you, and the producers as well, because the lady Zoe who did the set design, she does the Great British Bake Off and other things like that. So these were all lovely, soft, beautiful habitats, environments for us to be working from. And one of the things that we recognise, or the producers recognise, it's nothing to do with me, that actually if we're going to talk about a subject that's really taboo and that might really repulse some people, it needs to look beautiful to capture people's attention. So I think if it looked like embarrassing bodies type thing, and we were just talking about poo, people would not be interested. But because it looks so beautiful and they did such a nice job of the way they filmed it, even the cameras they chose and all that stuff, it really made a massive difference. If you were flicking through, you wouldn't have thought it was about poo until you started to pick things up. And I think that made a huge difference to the people who did tune in, who may not have been interested. And of course, that's really the key to that show, is trying to engage people who aren't otherwise engaged in these conversations, because that's how we can catch cancers earlier. That's how we can find people help that they really need to improve their life. And that's one of the big things that made me so passionate about the show.
Yeah, absolutely, and I can absolutely see that, because many times I actually, wear glasses, not like literally glasses, but then to see like how it's set and how it kind of attracts people, I think that definitely has come through and to me. And I'm just wondering, Sophie, how did it all kick off? Did Channel 4 come to you and say, would you like to do this show? And can you do, or did you approach them? How did it work?
A great question. So actually, the twins, so the Gut Stuff girls, the twins who run that, Alana and Lisa, they'd been pitching the show to production companies for a long time and trying to get people, not the iteration of the show that actually was there in the end, but a version of it, I guess, is the right way to put it. And they wanted to showcase gut health and talk about gut health on television. So they've been pitching the show and pitching themselves for a long time, even since before the pandemic. And then eventually they found Monkey Kingdom, who did produce the show in the end. And they said, look, I think we've really got something here. And they said to me, can you speak to the producers? I spoke to the producers and talked to them about all the things that we do in clinic as dietitians and the things that I thought we could showcase on the show and things we could show. And it sort of pivoted into a bit more of a clinical show than perhaps it was before, which is obviously great for us. And we then filmed a pilot, and it was Channel 4 commissioned a pilot, I should say. So the guys at Monkey Kingdom, who were super passionate about the idea, pitched it to Channel 4. Channel 4 commissioned a pilot. We filmed a pilot. Then we finally found out that we got the show commissioned and filmed all for about a month last summer, or on and off for a month last summer. And that's kind of the story of it. So I think that they screen tested other dietitians, and I wouldn't have known about that, but essentially I've worked with the girls from the Gut Stuff for a long time, and we have a close working relationship anyway, so it made sense that I would be working with them.
That's great. So you knew them already before the show, and I think that probably is how important it is to sort of expand your networks and work with different people, because they can bring different opportunities to the dietitians as well, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think sometimes that's also about thinking outside the box a little bit about who you work with and linking up with companies that are relevant in your space or the area that you're interested in. And, I've written for and worked with most of the big charities in the colorectal space, and particularly stoma charities. And I work with companies who make stoma bags and all sorts of things that perhaps people don't recognise, but who are operators in our space. And it's about that network and branching out and maybe being a bit more adventurous with where dietitians can be and where we might exist.
Yeah, absolutely. And dietitians can be everywhere. You just need to find your place, really. And did you need to prepare a lot for this series then?
Well, I was very lucky because it was basically just doing what I do every day in clinic, or, all week in clinic, just with my mates. So it was very much my clinical wheelhouse and the sorts of patients that I normally see. And I did have to screen a lot of applications. So interestingly, the casting people who did the casting for the show had more applicants for that show than they've ever had for any show before, which is amazing because it means that so many people are interested in it and so many people are engaged. So I have to do a lot of screening of questionnaires beforehand to try and sort of pinpoint what we might do with that patient and what might happen. But of course, people turn up on the day and say completely different things, and we had to have very natural and realistic consultations and actually give people the medical care that they'd come for and that they needed. And I still see some of the patients now, trying to sort of make sure that we're on the right track and giving them regular follow-up. So, I feel very lucky to have been able to be part of the whole process in that sense.
So did they actually sort of advertise the show and then ask people to apply then?
Yeah, exactly. So they put out a casting call, and had more applicants than for any other show that they've ever had. Amazing.
That's absolutely amazing. And I can see, because I've actually watched the series, and I think what's really good is it's not just IBS, it's actually a range of different clinical conditions like IBD, and then people with stoma bag, etc., which actually I think really demonstrates the sort of the wide range and the scope that dietitians can work in. So I think probably you have contributed quite a lot in sort of screening all those applications to make sure that we cover quite a wide range.
Well, no, we could have had a whole series just on IBS, and with all those patients it looked a bit different, and we could have had a whole series on IBD, and hopefully in the future there's a lot more scope for that kind of stuff. But we could still cover so many different conditions. We don't have any diverticular disease, we don't have there's so many things that we didn't cover. We could do a lot more with it. So about the future prospects for the show.
Yeah, will it have a second series then?
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. We're to know, but stay tuned, everybody. And what was the filming like?
It was really fun. Yeah, it was really fun. It was full on, really, really full on. So I made the mistake of making my friend come up to Manchester with me for the filming with my dog, thinking that, I'd at least be able to do the morning walk or the evening walk. And we did basically 12-hour days for 10 days straight. It was full on, but it was really fun. And as I say, I was with my friends doing the thing that I love doing and helping people and having my hair and makeup done and all that nice stuff. And there was nothing in there that felt really forced or really difficult or really outside my comfort zone, which I'm really fortunate about. And I have done and had done quite a lot of TV work before, which obviously helped. And I think some people have a natural ability to communicate things in a simple and straightforward way, and that's what they do. But also, like, really importantly, everything that they ask me is things that I get asked every single day in clinic. So I was working within my scope of practice and my comfort zone, which helped me with explaining things in a simple and straightforward way, for sure.
Yeah, and again, I think is how your previous experience led to this show and how it made your sort of life easier and filming easier, which I think, again, for everybody watching, I think so build up your experience, and that will definitely in the future someday will help you, probably in another TV show, like Sophie did. And did you have any say in the editing process?
So yes, in short. So there was lots of things where we were saying, look, we can't, that person said this in clinic and we can't include that because of this, this and this. Obviously I had Dr. Rabia with me, who's incredible and was so helpful with that kind of stuff as well. There were some patients who we thought actually maybe they better not be on the show. We filmed with a lot more patients than we actually showed, and perhaps this was too sensitive or it was not in their best interest to be on the TV and that kind of thing. So in that sense, yes, but I'm very much someone who believes that once I've done my work, it needs to be in the hands of the people who are good at making TV. And as much as that made me really nervous, because I was worried about what other dietitians would say about my practice and maybe be critical and that kind of thing, I just thought, actually, these guys know how to make TV, and I've done all the things that I can do, and they know how to edit and they know how to make it look exciting and interesting. And we had whole hour consultations with all the patients, but of course they were cut down to sort of
a few minutes
maximum, was a bit nerve-wracking when I thought about it, but in the end I think they did an amazing job of it, and it was really about those stories and people's emotions and how they felt about things, and that's what really came across in the show.
Yeah. And what's been the impact since it's aired then?
Well, from about January, probably by the middle of February, I was fully booked until August in clinic, which is ridiculous. So I was already, and then my clinics became so far ahead in advance, which is amazing, and I feel so lucky for that. But it means that all of those patients need follow-up, and I'm having to work at my normal clinic hours to try and see those patients. So keeping on top of that has been full on. I've been lucky enough to do lots of different webinars and lots of other things as a result of it. And one of the most lovely things, I guess, is that people email me or they come into clinic and they'll say, oh, I saw the show and you were so kind and no one's ever listened to me like that before, and I just want to feel like someone's actually heard what's going on for me. And one of the big things actually is that a lot of these people just really need to go back to basics and just have good quality, but sort of ground level dietary advice that we can build on, because often these people will have seen 10, 20 other people before they come to me, really been around the houses. So there's been really amazing impacts, lots of great stuff going on, and lots of exciting things for the future, for sure.
Absolutely. And I think you also demonstrate to the general public what dietitians do, and I think that's so important. And I think I am very proud of your work, and Sophie, and I think everybody does. And I think that's what we need to do to showcase what dietitians do. And I think that's what Dietitians Week is about, really, to showcase our work. And so well done, Sophie. That's really, really great. And
one of the things I was so proud of about the show was the fact that I had the opportunity to show people what dietitians do. And working under the title of dietitian, I don't call myself a doctor and I don't use any other title. So I'm a nutritionist, I'm a dietitian. I'm really proud to be a dietitian, and I'm really proud of the work that we do. And the more we can get in front of people, the more we can show what dietitians are capable of, and that we're not just whatever the preconception people have of us these days.
Yeah.
And that hopefully will inspire more people to get into dietetics, but also really importantly, patients to see the right person for the job sooner, so they don't end up with eating disorders and disordered eating and hate their bodies and hate food and all that kind of stuff before they end up seeing somebody who can actually help them.
such a good point, and so 100%. And so let's see if you have any more shows coming, and I can't wait to watch more TV shows feature you in. And so another aspect is you also work in product development, and especially like vitamins and probiotics. And how did you approach those manufacturers? Did they come to you, or did you go to them? How does it work?
A great question. So basically what happens is a company will say, we want to make vitamins for this particular group or this particular problem, or we want to make a probiotic that solves this particular problem, and I'll look through all. So we'll then draw up a contract between us that says, I'll do this, what I'll do, and this is what you'll do, and this is how it'll work. And then I'll get to work with my colleague Caitlin, who works with me on product development, and we do a lot of research, a lot of reading, figuring out, solving the problem, looking at, you know, if you say to me, well, recently, for example, we're looking at a product for younger children. So we would say, okay, what nutritional deficiencies are they likely to have? What do the government guidelines say? What's the right amount to give them? What's unsafe to give them? What are the side effects? Anything like that. And then we would take all of that research back to the person who's commissioned it, and we would say, this is what we found. And we would then design a product around those kinds of nutritional requirements, what's missing, what doses have an effect, if there's a specific effect that people are looking for.
Is it hard to produce the product?
You know what it really reminds me of? It really reminds me of prescribing TPN in the NHS. Because I go, I want all of this stuff, and they can't have all that stuff. So the company give me the brief, I do the brief, then I take it to my manufacturing colleagues, and they say, we can't fit this much of this in here, and we have to compromise on everything and titrate things down a little bit and move things around. And it's that kind of tinkering process, that iteration before you find what you can do and what's practical and what the right presentation is. Is it a powder? Is it a capsule? What's the right thing for people? It's that sort of working to refine and perfect things. I really enjoy it. And it's a lot of work, don't get me wrong, but it's lovely to be able to problem solve, and it's amazing to see things that you've designed come into fruition and people buying them, and then seeing the reviews is just wild. We saw some amazing reviews for Heights probiotic today on the Your Heights page on here, and I was like, wow, I designed that, and these people are saying these amazing things about it, and it's just, yes, it's so nice.
And how many products have you designed so far?
So we've got 2 with Heights, more in the making, so they've all been designed and just waiting for the next stages. Got 2 really exciting new products coming out, hopefully within the next few months. I've got one of my own products, which is hydration products, coming out maybe even on Wednesday, which will be really exciting. And then there's loads more in the pipeline. So these things take a little bit of time, but we love being there at the beginning of it and sort of starting that journey with people.
That sounds amazing. Can I just ask Sophie, can you promote your own products then, as a dietitian, and say, have this, or have this product, I designed this, or...
Great question. We have to be super careful about that. So dietitians can't be seen or put alongside any health claims. So I can't say, take this product, it's got vitamin D, which is important for your bone health, for example. That's considered a health claim, and so we can't be sitting alongside any of those. What we can say is, this contains vitamin D, and so people know it's a nutrient, for example. So you can make nutrition claims, it contains vitamin D, but I can't say, and therefore vitamin D is important for bone health. That's a health claim. So some really specific things that we're definitely not allowed to do. We, of course, have to hashtag add everything that may have any association and any affiliation with our finances. So Heights, for example, pay me on a retainer. They don't pay me to post on social media or anything like that, and that's in all of my contracts. Actually, is I won't be using my social media to promote your products. It's just not what I want to be using my socials for. But at the same time, if I'm doing a webinar, or I think there's something interesting to share, or I want to talk about the product development journey, or all those kinds of things, then I will use my socials for those kinds of things. And so I will always have to hashtag add everything and be really, really clear that there is a financial incentive for sharing this information. And the journey with my own product is going to be a completely new one. So we'll see how that stands. But it's, again, I won't be able to say, and I still won't be using my socials to promote that product heavily. It's very much like, this is what we've done and this is what's available, and I'm really proud of it, as opposed to, go and buy this product, here's my discount code. I will never do any of it.
Oh my God, I wish I was literally thinking of this, and I'm very disappointed to hear that I couldn't say to people, use my voucher, use my voucher code to buy this product. Oh, that's such a disappointment. And if people want to know more about the guidance, where can they go, Sophie? What kind of guidance is out there for people to read?
So the HCPC and the BDA have some clear guidelines, but my colleague Claire, who I can send you the information for, she runs CLB Nutrition. She has courses on health claims and things like that, and what you can and can't say as a healthcare professional. And I just really recommend jumping on one of those if you want to be super clear about what you can and can't do. And I'm aware that there are some students now who already maybe have a big social media following from a previous life and other work that they've done. So it would be really worth those people, if you've ever done any ads or you're thinking about using your socials for ads in a healthcare professional way, jump on one of those courses and just learn a lot more about what you can and can't say and what's safe, because you know the last thing anyone wants is the HCPC on their doorstep.
Absolutely. And where can people find that course?
I will link it for you. I'll send you a quick link, and then it's all on LinkedIn. It's called Claire Baisley, and she's on here under CLB Nutrition.
Excellent. That's so amazing. And because obviously, Sophie, so your clinic is all fully booked up, and you've got those products coming out, and you're doing other project work. Sounds really, really busy. How did you manage to juggle everything together, and how did you manage your time?
Question. I mean, it's not easy, and I think one of the things that I'm really trying to manage is not promoting kind of toxic productivity, which is kind of where my life has been for a while. I guess since the show, I sort of said to myself, I'm just going to ride this wave for 6 months and see what happens. And that 6 months is on its way out, fortunately. And the big tidal wave of work that came in is slowing down, which is helpful. But it's about just, like, for me, there are a few things that can't move in my life in terms of maintaining my health and my well-being, and one of them is getting enough sleep. The other is making sure I'm walking and I'm active with the dog every day. But other things, go to the gym and those sorts of things are really important to my general health and well-being, and spending time with friends and family and not isolating myself. These are things that over the years I've got good at making sure are in place so that I don't get overwhelmed, so I don't get burnt out. But it's not easy. And I think one of the things that I always say to women of my age, and maybe younger, but certainly women of my age, is we were taught that we could have it all. And I don't think that's true. I think we can probably have it all, but definitely not things. And I do some mentoring of various different people. And one of my girls I mentor said, well, I'm 25 now, and I want to be doing what you're doing once I'm 30, but I also want to have kids and I want to get married, this and this. And I was saying, you just can't. You cannot do all of the things all at the same time. And if you've got 5 years to really push into a business, amazing, you can do something amazing with it. But if you're thinking, well, within those 5 years, I also want to have kids, and I also want to get married, and I also want to do these other things, it's not realistic to think you can do everything all at the same time.
I think I need to bear that in mind myself as well. And I feel like I won't have it all, and then feel like absolutely exhausted. So that's absolutely great advice there. And thank you, Sophie. Any memorable moment in your professional career so far? I think probably there are more memorable moments. The most memorable one, perhaps.
It's really hard to say. I guess there's been lots, and I feel really privileged to I've enjoyed everything that I've done, and every opportunity that comes my way, I'm pleasantly surprised and always grateful. I guess when we knew we had the show commissioned, that was pretty amazing. We didn't know that was going to happen for sure. When the show first came out, that was amazing. It was wild to me to see that on. I've recently been commissioned to write a book, which is amazing, and there's just lots of big things going on. But I guess, early doors, some of the smaller things like getting published in the British Journal of Nursing, that kind of stuff early in my career. And still now I'm amazed that people find me and want to work with me. It's just, I feel super for everything that's happened and that's happening.
What's the book about? You can't say yet. Just have to keep our eyes peeled then. But then a book is coming, everybody, and I can't wait. And I really want to. Can you not even share a tiny bit? No, okay. Fair enough. Actually, my next question is, what's the next on the horizon for you? Obviously, a book is coming. Any other upcoming projects?
Yeah, so we and I are super excited about this product being launched on Wednesday, so keep your eyes out for that, and that'll be a big one that I'm really excited about, and lots of education around that as well, which will be great. More products coming on the horizon this year as well, so that's cool. And then book, hopefully more TV stuff, hopefully podcast, lots of things to come, and lots of exciting things.
So wow, so products on Wednesday, a book, and more products coming late this year. Oh my God, Sophie, I think you can't have it all, but always coming. I'm slightly professionally jealous, I have to say. um, what advice would you give to students who want to be as successful as you? And obviously you said, don't you think to have it all and takes time and everything. What other advice would you give to students and other dietitians?
Yeah, I think one of the really important things is, we've talked about it, but it's patience and taking your time. But it's also about positioning. So trying to think strategically about where you want to be and what you want to be doing in 5-10 years, and sort of starting to sow those seeds as early as possible. So if you imagine that to be in a situation where people are just, approaching you to be on TV, you need to be a subject matter expert for that to happen. That doesn't happen to people who just set up an Instagram last week, for example. It doesn't have to be Instagram. It's very much, it could be working in a hospital for 10 years, could be doing anything, but people will come to you if you are an expert and if you've positioned yourself strategically in that space. And nobody could have told 10 years ago, if anyone said to me, in 10 years, you'll be on Instagram talking about poo and everyone will love it, and you're going to go on TV talking about poo, I never would have believed you, because I didn't get into colorectal to be on TV. No one would have thought you could do that. But you just don't know what's around the corner in terms of how the world's going to change and how life is going to be. So it's worth just really pursuing things you really care about and you're really passionate about and that feel really right to you. And then work just won't feel like work anymore. And that's also really helpful.
That's so helpful, Sophie. And I guess, as you said, everybody needs to not to work hard, but work strategically, as you said. And also, I don't know if having a niche area would be helpful as well, and really know your topic, as you said, the subject area, to be a specialist in it. And because I
wouldn't see a patient who has diabetes anymore. I wouldn't see a patient who has anything outside of the gut health realm, because I haven't read a paper about it for years and I haven't seen a patient with it for years. So there's no way I could offer high level expertise in that area. And if someone, I had a producer call me the other day to do a bit of work on glucose, and I said, look, I'm not the right person for the job, but I know who is the right person for that job. And it is about being niche your areas of expertise and being honest about what your skill set is and working very much in your scope of practice.
Absolutely. And thank you so much, Sophie, for coming to the live chat today. And our timing has gone really, really fast. And it's the end of the live chat already. And I feel like I can ask you more questions and chat for another hour. And but thank you so much. Would you, because obviously this morning you were going to Coventry University to give a lecture. Would you come to Surrey and give a lecture to our students?
Anytime.
Excellent, everybody. This is recorded, so Sophie has agreed to come to Surrey and teach our students. So thank you so much, Sophie. And thank you, everybody, for joining this live chat. And have a lovely evening, everybody, and happy Dietitians Week. Bye-bye. Yeah. Bye-bye. Thank you, Sophie. Bye.